As I promised, the conversation on the dialogue. That's the biggest conversation tonight. Actually, everyone is asking the question, should they talk or shouldn't they talk? Is it too late? Because we've seen a number of people who have also died as a result of what has been going on in the country. So the biggest conversation now is about the dialogue. And joining me in this conversation are four gentlemen, members of Parliament. Robert Mbui is a Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly. He's joining me. Wilson Sosion is on the way, but John Kagushia, Member of Parliament from Kuruine, is already here. And of course, Dr. James Nikala. I'm speaking to them in a short while. But I'd like to put a context to our discussion. Even before I do that, your opening remarks, based on the calls for dialogue. I want to talk about that, but the fact that President Uhuru Kenyatta came out yesterday, let's begin with that, to tell President William Ruto that you are my president, and I attended that meeting, and if you invite me to State House, I shall come. I will honor that invite. Do you think there's some semblance now of understanding that indeed Kenya can only move forward if we talk?
Ken, thank you. I think it's true that it's important for us to talk. But even as we get to start talking, it's important to also put it in context that when leaders come together, it's not always about sharing government, because I think that's what Kenya Kwanza seem to be telling everyone. Sometimes it's just to bring a semblance of peace so that we can come out of this situation we're in. You know, right now, the number of people that have lost their properties, people who have lost their lives, people who have been maimed is so big. And we need to get to start talking to each other so that we can find a solution. And finally, also look at the issue that has taken Kenyans to the streets, which is a high cost of living. So we must get together and talk and find a solution for this country.
And find a solution, and that's the best place. Let me bring John. What do you think the fact that the leader, the chairman of Azimio, is now saying that it's okay, he's my president, if he calls me to talk, I will honor that invite?
Well, I think we should start with what many have claimed to be the invitation to talk by His Excellency the President. And I think it's clear from his message that he was not necessarily inviting Raila Odinga for a talk. Basically, what the President was saying from my reading is, Honorable Raila, yesterday you said that the President of Tanzania was in Kenya for 2 days to have a talk with, to help me and you talk. And she stayed here for 2 days and we could not talk, so she went back. You know, that was a claim that was made by Raila Odinga.
Do you think it was a false claim?
It could be true.
It could be true, okay.
But I don't know who had invited her. But nevertheless, what the President was basically telling Raila Odinga is that we don't need a third party for us to be able to sit down and talk. And the President actually told Raila, I'm going for a short while, I'll be back tomorrow, and I have always been ready and willing to have a talk with you. In any case, His Excellency the President did come up with a bipartisan talk and invited Raila Odinga to appoint a number of members of Parliament, as he also did, and the bipartisan talk started. But who has reneged from the talks from time to time? It is one of the sides.
I know, leader, you really want to go that direction, but I'll talk about that extensively. I really want to get done with the former president's part. Then we'll go to the invite by the president, because there's a tweet on air of Kimani Ichung'wah, who was reacting to that. Suddenly everyone wants to meet with you, even the ones who 11 months ago did not even want to shake your hand, not talk to you, now wants to calls you his president. It is well, some progress. Happy that Baba has recovered from the flu, but how did he start working with the Minister of Foreign Affairs as State House person? I know that tweet is put in context of the invite that the president extended, but I really want you to talk on that, then we can go to the other one.
Yeah, the president actually is just telling Raila Odinga, I am free to talk anytime, and I have always been. It is you who have been calling us illegitimate government. It's you who have been saying you want to throw us out of State House. It's you who've been saying that you're not willing and ready to have an engagement with us, and using all manner of accusations or dishonesty or, I mean, all manner of excuses that have been done. But what the president was basically saying, you don't need Madam or President Suluhu in this case to help us talk.
You have completely decided you're not going to talk about President Uhuru Kenyatta, because that's my interest.
Are you asking about Uhuru Kenyatta?
Yes, extending an olive branch and saying, if you invite me to State House, you're my president, I will come. That's what I want to know, your perspective on that.
No,
not
okay,
Raila Odinga.
sorry. I was referring to the issue of
Suluhu and President Suluhu. Yes.
So if you're asking about the issue of the former president, and his now recognition of the president, I would say officially and formally, the President Uhuru Kenyatta did recognize William Samoei Ruto as a president right from the word go, from the day that he did hand over power to him in Kasarani, and that was recognition enough of his presidency. Number two, the president now, William Samoei Ruto, did also extend an olive branch to the president when, on his first inaugural speech, he appointed Uhuru Kenyatta as an envoy of peace in this region, and from that he took up the mantle and he has been doing that. And I think to that extent, it shows that the two gentlemen do recognize each other as the president and the former president. And I know the point of strain has actually been now on what has happened 6 months down the line, and where now the former president was seen to be engaged in many ways on funding the maandamano.
It's an allegation that is not substantiated, and I spoke to him and he said he is not, and for what benefit. But you reserve your comments. Let me bring Dr. Nika.
I don't know why you have dismissed me like that.
No, I have not. I'm just saying,
Mijungu,
he spoke yesterday.
Look at this.
Yes.
Look at this. You can't say that is an allegation that
do you have evidence that he's been funding?
You know,
yes.
You know, I don't have to bring evidence here,
no.
But evidence is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't you bring it if it's there?
You should ask me.
There. Yes.
You should ask me what evidence I have.
Yes.
And then I'm able to substantiate.
That is my question.
Are you
do you
getting?
have evidence about funding?
Let me just give you one of the examples.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have had many involvements of young people who have clearly indicated that this is where we are getting our funding from. We had almost 2,000 young people at Karura, at DCI, who had been mobilized, and they had not brought themselves to Kiambu Road at DCI, and they were singing war songs, and they were indicating where they were getting their sources from. So what I'm saying is this: we have allegations, even though they are allegations, but there are reasons to believe that sources of funds are actually coming from a certain direction. And so when that is brought out, it's only clear that, or it's only important that you who is being accused of doing so, you should also be able to stay clear of those kind of, are you getting?
And that's what I was saying, because he said, and he asked the question, to what benefit? Yes, I'd still really want to know what the young people said, but let me bring Daktari. Daktari, good to see you this evening. Are you softening your stand as Azimio, and you're now ready to meet the president, preceded by what has been happening in the country in the last few months? Is Azimio softening their stand?
It's not softened. There's no stand to be softened. We have always been ready that if they want a discussion, we were ready when the bipartisan group was put in place. So if they come on the terms that are acceptable, then people can always talk. It's not softening. This is the stand we've always had, and we started by talking. Now, when it looks like it was not a serious talk, where they had a different definition of bipartisan from what is really bipartisan, then of course it became necessary. If there is seriousness, then it stopped because it was unnecessary. If they deem that it is necessary and they are serious, it just starts from where it was. So nothing is really softening.
These conditions that you're saying are favorable. The other side is complaining your side was coming up with outrageous demands for these bipartisan talks that couldn't stand. In fact, they've several times invited your side back to the table. Yesterday or the other day, Otiende Amolo, who's a co-chair, said that unless he gets express instructions from the party leadership, they're not going back to that table. I mean, such conditions are the things that we say, the headlines.
That's not a condition. If you are representing a team or you're representing a group, you are representing somebody, and you reach a point where you said, no, let this thing stop. And that comes from whoever sent you, whichever group sent you. Obviously, you can't be accosted in the street and then asked, are you coming back? You must say, well, we have to go back and find out. Now, if the other side, Honorable Murungaru came, my indication is that they had some discussion somewhere from the appointing authority, so to speak, and that's what we are speaking for. We haven't reached that position where we have asked, is it now necessary to go? So Honorable Tiende was doing what is logical. Mm-hmm. You stopped, you are acting on behalf of a group of some people. If you were going to go back, you must start from there.
The group has to okay.
Yes, it has to okay it again.
Okay. You, chairman, Azimio chairman, indicating right now that he's ready to be invited. If he invited at State House, he's ready to go. Is that not also a sign of perhaps softening?
If he's invited.
Yes, if he's invited.
It's invited. But that has always been. If there is, when you send people to talk, does it not mean that you are ready to talk? And if then the people go to talk, and the talks have no meaning, you see no process, you stop. You haven't said that you cancel the original position of being ready to.
Your chairman did not even go to State House after the swearing in, as is tradition. It's not legally required for him to go back to State House after handing over. But he did not. In fact, I don't think he's ever gone back to State House. He's always held that position. He even said once, my president is, my leader, my leader. And now he's saying, if you call me back, I think it's a good thing for the country, but it also shows that all these things that have been happening in Azimio were not necessary at some point, because if they were motivated by eventual invite, come and talk, and people saying, let's come and talk. I mean, it spells, what does it spell for, especially for families that have lost loved ones?
Why are you linking the two of what you have said and what is happening?
Because the president has invited Raila Odinga on the table, and Raila Odinga has also indicated, plus a number of his troops, that if it's okay to talk, although he says he doesn't trust the president, but he says it's okay to talk, right?
You know, me sometimes I find politics very interesting. Because politics, let me tell you, let me get you on a bigger principle, because we waste a lot of time in these places. We are talking politics. Politics is the biggest enemy of governance. You know why? Because politics are about perceptions, impressions. Governance is about reality. The physical world we live in, if you lie, it fails. And if you see a lot of governance efforts failing, it's because people are talking about perceptions. We are not very much about perception. We are about reality. And the reality, in always, in any situation, the reality is that if you talk, you solve a problem. But if you are looking for small things, like what does that thing, what does this thing mean, that is the game of politics. Okay. And it's normally what really causes problems.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are in a position of reality. If there's need, and what we are asking for, these things we are bringing, that is somebody said I can talk, somebody tweeted. Now, what we are asking for are very real. There is a high cost of living. Period. If you're going to talk, you may not even need to talk. Just start addressing them, and let's see the results.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So this preoccupation that we want to talk, this, what did you recognize me? Once you are there, by whatever means you came, work.
Okay.
Don't that has somebody visited me. That is not what Kenyans are looking for.
Okay.
Not for people who come to visit you and see that now you are there.
You think that's the validation the president is looking for?
You are not a bride. Even a bride, if you keep just looking at her in the clothes, you will not even have children. Get to work.
Gentlemen, we are waiting for Honorable Wilson Sossion, who is making his way here. We are going to take a break, but when we come back, we will do some business and sports. The gentlemen stay with me. The discussion continues after business and sports. Stay with us. CAF inspectors in town. Government assures commitment to joint bid. Details coming up after the break from the sports desk.